Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. I shall see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where of course it is, well, it's not exceedingly hot today compared to some of the previous days, but it's decently warm. I'd say here in the UK. It was a bit cold this morning, but it's gotten warm over time. But now I suppose we're past the precipice of midday into the mid-afternoon, where I don't know why I'm talking about weather. It's it's a bit of idle talk, a bit of small talk, just to warm up the conversation before we get into really big stuff, like, I don't know, Heroes of New Earth shutting down, and you'd be like, what's Heroes of New Earth? Maybe you say, I don't know if you are even aware of Heroes of New Earth, but we'll get into that in a bit. Hello everyone, right now in Fawnhallow, it's 4:31 PM on Monday, June 20th, 2022. I have an event announcement. I really want to sneeze, but I'm at a horrible place where I can't quite sneeze, but I also can't not want to sneeze. Does that make sense? As I can tickle on my nose, but oh well, if I suddenly stop speaking, it's probably because I've muted myself to sneeze. But anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, we need to do Nook mileage program stuff, so we'll happily do that. Oh yeah, Heroes of New Earth shut down. If you don't know what Heroes of New Earth is, it's actually quite an old MOBA, like in the spirit of League of Legends, Dota. What's the other big one? Smite. I literally don't think there are any other particularly big ones. Now, I mean, what's the Blizzard one called? I honestly cannot even record. But it doesn't really matter. Those are basically the only big ones which people really pay much attention to as of right now. And Heroes of New Earth, I remember because I remember watching videos about it ages ago. I can't remember if Heroes of New Earth was even free to play back then, but it was around the time. It might have been before League of Legends was even released. It was actually, I think, back during the time I used to watch Yogscast, which is ages ago. Maybe League of Legends had released. It was just in its infancy. I honestly can't recall. But it was when, I used to watch Yogscast. If you don't know, you probably know about Yogscast. So they used to do a lot of Minecraft stuff. Nowadays, I don't know what they do. I haven't watched them for probably like a decade or so. I'm not really sure, but they used to cover Heroes of New Earth and like the new heroes which were released every so often. And I thought it seemed very interesting. But I feel like Heroes of New Earth was not free to play, or maybe it was free to play, but you had to purchase heroes. I don't know. You had to spend money on something, and then it went free to play at some point. A while back anyway. But by that time I was already playing League of Legends, so I didn't play Heroes of New Earth. So I'm like somewhat familiar with Heroes of New Earth. It's sort of like the oldest competitor to Dota, I suppose. Before League of Legends was the thing, I think Heroes of New Earth versus Dota was a big sort of debate, and then I don't know. I guess Dota started falling off, and then League of Legends was released, and then it was LoL versus Heroes of New Earth, and then Dota 2 was released, and then it was LoL versus Dota 2, and then somehow Heroes of New Earth. I don't know what happened to it. It just like completely fell by the wayside. And now after it's like a decade of being run, 12 years or something? I don't remember. Let's see if I still got it open. I was reading a little bit about it. Not that much. 12 years, yes. It's now shut down permanently. Which is, certainly it's a big shame to people who actually played the game rather than, me just talking vaguely about it, being like, oh yeah, I saw that about here and there. But I don't know. I always thought Heroes of New Earth was an interesting sort of like had an interesting style of quirkiness to it, which is only really replicated, I suppose, with what's it called? Smite nowadays. At least I always remember looking at it and then like looking at the champion skins and being like, wow, these are some strange ones or whatever, very transformative, and Smite obviously takes that to a whole extreme where all their the gods actually you play as in Smite are basically can look completely different in their skins and whatnot. Which is interesting, I suppose, in its own right. It certainly raises questions of clarity of design, I think, from my perspective. But yet again, I haven't played the game much, so perhaps it's distinctive enough anyway through its the way these crazy skins are designed. But it's fine. I honestly can't tell you. But yeah, no, I don't want to say I'm like sad. No, of course I'm saddened, I suppose, partially by the fact of like such a game I'm aware of, I suppose, shutting down like Heroes of New Earth. But to say I had that much investment in it would be, well, I suppose, a fabrication, shall we say. It's honestly a little bit surprising, I suppose. They didn't try and like ever update Heroes of New Earth to make a Heroes of New Earth 2. Or maybe they did, and maybe it fell through. I don't really know. I didn't really pay much attention to Heroes of New Earth. And who's the developer? Is it 2K? I feel like I should remember who creates Heroes of New Earth. I don't know if you've even done of any other games. Let's see. Heroes of New Earth. S2 Games, that's it. What else have S2 Games released? I remember their Gorilla. Little logo. Strife, Savage, Heroes of New Earth, Lost, Broad of the Ages. Literally never heard of any of these other games apart from Heroes of New Earth, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I was looking a bit of Heroes of New Earth, you know, just recently, just to be like, oh, you know, is it as I remember it? And I look at it and I'm like, you know, it does look quite dated. It's probably what I'd say. It looks like sort of like early Warcraft-esque sort of games, you know, that sort of thing. It takes me back to the early 2000s, looking at all those, like, I'm not sure what they're called, like arena battlers? Not really, but you know what I mean. Hold on, let me have some water. But it makes me think of like StarCraft 1, you know, Warcraft 3. And I didn't even play those games, but I've seen like stuff of them, like Age of Empires even, I suppose. I look at it and be like, that's kind of what it reminds me of. But I don't know when Heroes of New Earth really stopped getting updates, but you know, I was looking at the hero list. But what I do remember is Heroes of New Earth had some absolutely wild, like, hero ideas in the first place, right? Not necessarily, I suppose, wild as in, like, you look at it and be like, that's the most creative thing I've ever seen, but it's also just like, I suppose they sort of ran the gauntlet of all different types, a huge variety, I suppose, of different heroes and playable characters, which I always think is very interesting in its own right. I certainly won't discredit them for that, because they had like, I can't remember off the top of my head, like, you had your generic, like, people, like, knights or whatever, but then they also have, like, really random things, like, there's, like, a snail, I think, from what I saw from the hero spotlights. I honestly don't recall off the top of my head. They had, like, some animal things. They had, like, I don't know, it was just a bit wild, to be perfectly honest. And whether that's good or bad, I suppose that's sort of up to you as a decision. And I don't really know, because I don't know in that much detail. But, you know, as I understand it, most people who played Heroes of New Earth, you know, so the writing was on the wall, I think, for the game for a while. So most people sort of jumped ship to Dota, I'd imagine, because Dota and Heroes of New Earth had a reasonable amount of similarity, I feel. At least, you know, Dota is closer to Dota 2, that is closer to Heroes of New Earth than it is to LoL, I'd imagine. Then, don't quote me on that, because I'm not entirely sure if that's true. But, you know, Heroes of New Earth had things like turn rates. They have the same sort of, like, division between, like, strength, agility, and, like, intelligence, I assume, that Dota 2 has, I think. I don't know, like, I think Dota 1 came first, maybe, or maybe both stemmed from the same thing. I honestly can't recall, but, you know, the inspiration is, or at least the relationship is quite evident to see, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Should we see if there's anything more interesting on the Reddit thread? You know, maybe there's probably even a subreddit for Heroes of New Earth. I've never actually considered that. We'll see what they say about it. Because it's always a sad thing when a game you like playing is shut down, like, and is never to be seen from again. Like, I'm trying to think of one major one that's happened to me. I suppose Club Penguin might be the biggest one I can think of. Might sound silly to say, but, you know, I did spend a lot of my youth playing Club Penguin. Obviously, I wasn't playing it by the time it shut down, but hearing about it shut down sort of just was like, oh, you know, that's like a definitive end to a part of my youth. And it's sort of just like, oh, you know, that's it. It's gone. I mean, it was like, the writing was on the board, I suppose, for it in the first place, and, you know, player base was dying. It was not particularly well managed, is what I'll say. And certainly if I was a manager, I know I would make different decisions to try and keep it going. But I'd imagine it's just the return it was getting was not, you know, high enough to justify its existence of the servers. So they tried to reboot it with Club Penguin Island, or whatever it was called. Penguin Island. I honestly don't recall what it was called. That didn't last very long, as it turns out. But, you know, things happen. So I can't imagine it. And I'd imagine the Heroes of New Earth people are quite sad to see it go. I'd imagine. But honestly, I don't know how many people were still playing it in its, like, sort of final days. And I'd imagine the people who played it knew it was coming. They sort of, like, expected it. But, you know, doesn't mean it's not slated for a comeback. You know, Heroes of New Earth 2. Or Heroes of New Earth, like, Reborn or something. It could come back again, you know, bigger and brighter and even more polished than before. But yeah, I don't really know what to say. I'm looking at the subreddit from 10 years ago. It was stuff 6 months ago. Oh, 6 months ago they got an email being like, it's shutting down. 10 years ago, someone giving up on Heroes in Europe. I don't know. At a resurgence through party, I honestly don't know. It's weird because it's a name I hadn't heard of for so many years. And I don't know, that's like, seeing it shut down, I suppose, made me sort of reflect on League of Legends. I don't play that much League of Legends anymore. The only reason I play it is because I do quite like the game, but it's also like, it's very nice because it's a common game in our friend circle where basically every single person in our friend circle knows how to play League of Legends, whether it be from very casually, from like the ARAMs and that sort of things, or to, you know, playing very competitively and getting very high ranks or whatever. So we sort of, you know, my friend circle runs a whole sort of a gauntlet of different skill levels and attitudes towards the game, but it's a unifying thing, especially since it was our first major game that most of us have even played together. I suppose my reflection on it is sort of just like looking at it and being like, wow, you know, that's going to happen to League of Legends someday. Obviously, you know, not games can't really run as a service forever. You know, it's kind of in the name, it's games as a service. It's not games as a purchase. The games will come, they'll go, because it takes servers to run them or whatever have you. And I mean, it's happened before. Like, and I know the very big one is always for Halo games. When we shut down, people like stay on their servers for a very long time. But it sort of made me reflect on it. You know, League of Legends, I don't think is in any danger of dying unless like a literal implosion, I suppose, happens corporately or something. But right now, it seems to be thriving, to be perfectly honest, and growing day by day. Perhaps it hasn't had like a huge surge it had back in 2014. I forget when League of Legends had its peak amount of players joining, but still, it sort of makes me reflect on it, being like, you know, someday this is going to be over. As a very good thing in life, you know, it doesn't last forever, so you've got to make most of it, the time I suppose you have of it, and understand that when it comes to an end, hopefully it will go out with a bang rather than with a whimper necessarily. But I'd imagine League of Legends at least probably has like, you know, the thing is, League of Legends is what League of Legends doing is quite smart, is branching off into being a franchise more than just the solo game. So even if League of Legends, the core game itself died, it still might live on through other things, like maybe Legends of Runeterra. Card games last a really long time, and see Magic Gatherings, you know, prevailed up for however many years it's been out for. You know, the fighting game is coming out, fighting game series, you know, provided it kicks off, it could become a very successful franchise. In that way, team fight tactics maybe continue, maybe auto battlers will get like a huge new resurgence again, or like become even stronger. I don't know, you know, who's to say exactly how the future of the market will pan out. But I forgot what I was saying. League of Legends doing a nice thing to sort of, I suppose, preserve the IP itself, is, you know, becoming a franchise. So, you know, even if the game itself dies, the heart of the game can still sort of live on through different prospects and different projects. Which, you know, Heroes of New Earth didn't really do so much. But, you know, other games are doing it as well. Like, once you get to sort of critical mass, I suppose, of size in a game, that's, you know, the kind of expected route, you know. World of Warcraft, and they certainly branched out quite a lot with, you know, Hearthstone, other things, probably. I'm not really that well versed in World of Warcraft, so I can't really say, but still. So yeah, I'm not saying this to be like, I don't think League of Legends is going to die particularly soon. I think it's got quite a few years left in it yet. To be honest, possibly could go on for another decade. These big games, these titans, don't really show any sign of stopping, and especially when they're actually shown to be adapting, I suppose, to coming changes, I suppose, in gaming environments, etc., etc. It makes me, you know, hesitant to be like, they're down for this soon. Like even like things like Fortnite, you know, they try to innovate, they keep the gameplay loop interesting, obviously, for pros, and then like try and do whatever they can to bring casual players back in, etc., etc. While I don't know if Fortnite's got another decade left in it, still, it's, you know, it's still going strong. At least it doesn't show any signs, I think, of stopping anytime soon, whether that be to your chagrin or not, depending on how much you like those games. But, you know, personal opinions of them aside, I think they're all fine, and, you know, I'm glad to see them doing well, I suppose. I mean, so games can really last on for a long time, and really the power of having built up such a massive player base in the first place is really quite strong. Because, I mean, look at games like like World of Warcraft's been around for ages, but World of Warcraft does get constant updates, even if the content people don't necessarily agree with anymore. You know, there's been controversies around it. I don't know, but it's still going strong, and people still love like WoW Classic or whatever. And to a certain extent, it is in a bit of a downfall, but you know, that's just kind of Blizzard in general. Or, sorry, Activision Blizzard in general, having some very questionable decisions for consumer satisfaction, is what I'll say. But that's not for me to judge. But like, even look at games like TF2, probably like, I don't know if it was the biggest shooter of all time at one point, but certainly the biggest casual shooter of all time at one point. Massive player base, you know, this huge amount of die-hard fans, even like how many years it's been on. Almost 20 years maybe, I'd imagine by now. I'm not sure if that's true, and people are still playing it, even if it's slowly dying out. And that's with Valve basically abandoning it for the past decade or so. So, you know, I think games like Fortnite and League of Legends, they still got a lot of lifeblood left in them, even if they like literally stopped updating them. I think people still considerably might play them for quite a while if TF2 is anything to go by. And people just, as long as the tools are there, I suppose, for people to interact with it on their own front, because, you know, TF2 people can play it and they can make their own servers where certain things are banned, so they can, you know, like rebalance things themselves. That's not really the case for League of Legends and Fortnite, I suppose, as much. So, you know, perhaps there's a bit of arguability there, but yeah, it's a bit wild. Anyway, sorry, I kind of forgot to pay attention to your story. Oh, this poor person, he just started playing Heroes in Europe and it got enhanced, it shut down. But there's a lot of people just being like nostalgically looking at things, being like, oh, you know, look at all the cool stuff that's happened, all the good friends I made, etc, etc. I'm just trying to look at these things. All these things are like 10 years ago. Is that like splash outs of Heroes in New Earth, like Heroes of New Earth list of heroes? I want to see all the heroes, but I want to see their full splash outs. I was trying to look at them earlier, but it was just like with little like cutouts without having, but you had to individually click on them. Man, even looking at these things, it's so reminiscent of like early 2000s era sort of art style, isn't it? I feel like I have played Heroes in New Earth. I feel like I recognise this character Fade. Like, looking about it, it's like nowadays thinking about it, I'm just like I suppose character design sort of well, fan servicey, shall we say. What's this? This guy's just a big crow. I mean, he's got a skin where he's just a human dude. I mean, he's got a skin where he turns into a lich or something, I don't know. Now he's a crow with armor. Even the loading icon is so like early 2000s. Honestly, it's still kind of cool to see that Heroes in You've had such a cool like solid fan base for a while. Wow, now he's like a female elf. What? Can you just do this? You just completely change who the character is. A lot of female skins. You know what? Fair enough. A little bit of gender fluidity in there. War Beast? I don't even know what that is. Cthulhu fan? I feel like I remember this one. This one, like, it started because I remember League of Legends had a referral program. That if you referred like 10,000 people to the game or whatever, Riot would theoretically invite you to their studio to design a champion or whatever. That was back when Riot was a very small, like, indie company, of course. But then, like, it happened, like, Total Biscuit, like, some other players, like, one of the players who actually got 10,000 in referrals, I was referred by them, not personally. It was like a project, like, I can't remember who made a video. I think it was like Captain Sparkles or something, like made a League of Legends video or something about this guy who was basically, he was like slowly going blind, so he wanted to get as many referrals as he can so he could sort of leave his mark on a game that he's been playing since like the alpha or whatever. And I was touched by that story, and I was like, I want to give this game a try, you know, I've seen stuff about it, why not give it a shot? And I signed up using his referral link. Anyway, as it turns out, Riot got kind of big, you know, League of Legends had a rather explosive popularity, and then they were just like, yo, turns out, psych, you can't design a champion, but we'll, you know, do something else for you. Which is a sort of thing where it's like, I understand why they were like, oh, you're not allowed to design a champion, but it's kind of lame. What they probably should have done is, I'd assume, as soon as people started actually attaining the goal, you know, shut it down, that goal, rework that system entirely, and be like, yeah, okay, we can't afford to just like fly people out here and design champions, but maybe they can contribute to like skin lines or something, etc., etc., or, you know, come up with conceptual ideas, etc., etc. Because, you know, 10,000 is a lot of people. So that sort of referral system, I feel like people should be rewarded in that sense. But, you know, Riot did what they did, and they just went, nah, you're not allowed to design anything. But then, Heroes of the New Earth, I believe, contacted the people being like, yo, we'll design a champion with you. And this Cthulhu Fund one, I think, was one which Total Biscuit designed. But I might have just made that entirely up, but I feel like I remember reading that at some point. ages ago. I'm just looking at these champions, just being like, I don't even know what I'm looking at in half of this. What I do appreciate, though, is they have a lot of monstrous-looking champions. Like, heroes. Well, heroes which are just not just human. I mean, we do have a lot of heroes which are just human. But, you know, it's interesting, you know. But there's a whole, like, range of different designs you can really flesh out, I suppose, when it comes to character designs in the first place. And certainly, I think a lot of games, you know, they want to make things which are popular, necessarily, which, you know, kind of sort of necessitates making humanoid champions, because people, you know, unsurprisingly relate to humans the most. There's not always, like, a huge expression, I suppose, freedom of expression, I suppose, throughout creative designs and that sort of thing. But it is a balance, you know. You obviously want to make... You don't want to invest a load of resources into something and be like, oh, you know, this is not going to have any sort of payoff. But at the same time, you don't want to have invest a load of same resources and make, you know, sort of like same hashed out cookie cutter designs over and over and over again. That's very boring, and obviously your players are going to be bored by it, no less as well. You know, you got to have something. You got to have a right strike of balance in there. But, you know, Heroes of the New Earth very much just sort of went wild with a lot of their designs. I think they really like the sort of inversions of characters in here. I don't even know what this guy is. He's just like locked up in an Iron Maiden or something. What's that guy? Gravekeeper. It's so strange looking at this stuff again and being like, wow. Like, I'm looking at Faye and I'm just trying to think, like, if League of Legends they released a character like Fade and that was her initial skin, I think most people would be like, are you serious? That's the best you can do nowadays? It's people would just be like, that's so, like, non-creative and also very strange in its own right. But I don't know, I guess it's more of a testament of its own time. I wonder if Heroes of the New Earth did many like reworks in that sort of sense. I don't mean to sort of like be rude to Heroes of the New Earth, but, you know, it's fair enough, I feel like, to look at things under a sort of critical lens, of basically how far we've come in development, and especially in like the video game industry and stuff, you know, like representation, you know. It does matter whether people like try and argue it doesn't or not. In fact, it's, you know, while we still have a long way to go, looking back at like old things does sort of give you an insight to really how how bad I suppose it used to be, or how like restrictive it used to be. It's so very strange, I suppose, looking at it. It's sort of like I've stepped into a portal. Like, I don't even know what this is. Bushwhack. I can't even tell who you are by your icon. Oh, you're just like a goblin. Oh, I see it now. Calamity? I don't know. It's just like a woman, it seems like. Again, a very sort of early 2000s sort of design. You can definitely tell. Just completely changed in different skins. It's wild. It's so crazy looking at these. And the only one I really remember off the top of my head is Rhapsody. Oh yeah, in fact, I still remember what she looked like. And I remember her what is this splash art? It's so strange. It's completely different style. Like, how bizarre. It kind of looks like a beta art style, but I don't really know. All I remember is her ultimate is like she plays it and it grants like all allies like a huge amount of damage reduction or whatever. Yeah, I can't get a splash art. It's so strange. Anyway, but there's probably like a ton of wild and different skins out here. She's just a straight up zombie here, I suppose. She's Hatsune Miku here. I don't. Can you do that? Can you just put Hatsune Miku in your game? Maybe it was a collaboration thing. I don't really know. Moon Queen, Sapphire. What's this? Emerald Warden. I don't remember Sapphire, so this must be a new hero. In fact, she question mark doesn't look like she has drawn splash arts or anything. They look like models, most of them. like 3D models. How that one's drawn? I don't know. It's a bit of a weird mix. I don't know. Just looking at it now sort of makes me feel like what happens when I look at like Neopets or something. Where I'm just like, this is like a portal to the past. Look how crazily better, I suppose, things have improved. What on earth? But they really like having these bestial champions and then just having them turn into a human woman as one of their skins. I'd imagine they sell rather well, which is probably why. He's just an eye in this skin. He's a floating, like, Dullahan, I guess, but also a beholder? That's very confusing. It's so strange, it almost feels like looking at all of these. I don't even know what to think of this. Mimics? Polywog Priest? Electrician? This guy's just called Electrician? Fair enough. This guy looks like Zareth. That's all I can really say. From League of Legends, that is. Oh, you know what? We need to order things from the Nook Milestone. The Nook Milestone. Let's not forget to do that. And then we'll finish Gulliver's digging up stuff later. But yeah, anyway. The whole point I was meant to be talking about before I got kind of distracted looking at old heroes of New Earth and just looking at all their old hero designs is obviously all good things come to an end, and eventually so will like every game which is a game at the surface, which is weird to think about. Especially games which, you know, possibly I've like spent money in, like bought skins for, etc, etc, etc. You might be like, I wonder, do you have any sort of like regrets, I suppose, for, you know, spending money on something which doesn't last forever? But you know, it's kind of like I'm well aware that paying for it in the first place, it's not going to be something which is I'm gonna have the rest of my life, etc. But there's a lot of things I pay for which I know it's not going to stick with me for the rest of my life. You know, pay for a meal, that's only going to last a couple of hours. Do I have any regrets for paying for a good meal if it's, you know, done by the end of the day? If it's only temporary, if it's only consumable? No, of course not. We definitely didn't need to redeem that one because I've definitely bought the solar panels before. This one we definitely have. Should probably skip the ones which I definitely know I have. Yeah, but eventually it'll come to an end. Okay, Pagoda is the one we're going to start with next time. Hopefully, you know, later rather than sooner, so we can still appreciate it while it's still here. But it's sort of weird to think about, I suppose, especially because it's a very sort of modern thing, I suppose, having games as a service nowadays. Now you don't really bat an eye at it, but it wasn't particularly common, I don't think, back in the day, apart from through MMORPGs, which are a rather big undertaking in the first place. So I can't imagine we're all that common. This is a Hydra. Now he's a Phoenix? What on earth is it? Like a hippogriff? He's in space? What is going on? Just a human woman again? It's so very bizarre. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, a lot of games over servers have come and gone, you know. And there's a really good YouTuber who creates games called... Oh, I forget. He's got like a sort of like noir-esque YouTube channel theme, but Death of a Game. Death of a series? Death of something, I don't know. YouTube channel who delves into these sort of things. I wonder if they've made one of Heroes of New Earth. That would probably be a very interesting thing to look at in the first place. So I'll probably go check that out, see if it, you know. Look it up right now, so I can actually tell you the channel. Death of a Game. The process Nerd Slayer Studios? Is that right? Have you done Heroes of New Earth? It doesn't look like it. Wizards, Overwatch. Yeah, seeing sort of breakdown and eventual things which led to a decline of game. You know, sometimes it's just sort of inevitable where it's just like a game's just going to lose popularity. It's just going to become a figment of, you know, gaming history, I suppose. And if it fails to keep up with like modern trends and innovations, then it'll be left behind, won't it? And most games will go down that route. You know, it's expensive to keep a game running, of course. So as soon as it starts losing money, there's not much investment to go into it in the first place. It's a sort of thing where the margins are like negative, isn't it, for like many years, and then suddenly, unless you need like explosive popularity to really get into the good side. Like I think monetization in games is really such a fascinating subject, which especially because it's such an interactive medium and it's so different, I think, compared to a lot of other media properties, you know. I suppose because of the advent of subscriptions as a service and microtransactions and, you know, the gacha mechanics. Interesting, and not like I'm not trying to say this like a morally good way. Obviously, a lot of them, the things the techniques they use are quite like predatory, etc., etc. But I suppose it's a fascinating combination of, you know, finance and psychology. Economics. Oh, I hesitate to say economics is one of my strongest interests or anything, but like any of these like interconnected systems are extremely fascinating, especially when you relate them back to psychology, I think. I forgot where I was going with this. Yeah, I don't know. So the payment to keep things going is very interesting. Like, and I think about that with mobile games, because mobile games, you know, is sort of ubiquitous for having very, you know, aggressive, shall we say, monetization schemes, etc., etc. But, you know, how much is the upkeep to even keep it going in the first place? I'd imagine the margins are actually reasonably quite thin, depending on the game. But even still, it's sort of like, I don't know. Eventually, they're all going to shut down, aren't they? And it's weird to think about, because a lot of the games I play, like obviously they've gone from like single player purchase games to subscription based, not subscription based, but like service based games are the ones which are like continuous throughout, but just by their nature, they're games as a service. They don't really have an end until, you know, the money runs out, I suppose. The games you purchase one time, you know, like things like Chicory, etc., these indie games, whatever, they have an end. And, you know, there's good and bad, I suppose, in both. But anyway, I don't know. And end of service, there we go. My heart goes out to you for all you heroes and Earth players that your favourite game is gone, or, you know, going, or maybe actually officially gone now. I don't really know, but hopefully you'll be able to find something else to help replace it, or you'll be able to reminisce, I suppose, reminisce on all the good times you had spent playing it. But for now, we're going to round off this episode here, so if you have been watching, thank you very much. This has been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Day Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join my Day Darling Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. That was a bit early. Hold on, let's try it again. Bye-bye for now.